The stars burned in the darkness of space, silent witnesses to the horror unfolding below. The planet Viridia turned slowly on its axis, its blue oceans and green continents visible from orbit. It had been a peaceful world for 300 years, home to a species that valued trade and diplomacy above all else. The Viridians had built their civilization on cooperation, extending friendship to every species they encountered. Their orbital stations gleamed like jewels around their homeworld, testament to centuries of prosperity. That peace died in fire and blood. The Catharan fleet emerged from the darkness like a nightmare made real. 12 massive warships, their hulls covered in dark armor plating that seemed to absorb light itself. War Commander Zekthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his reptilian eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he surveyed his prey. The Catharans had spent 30 years cutting a path of destruction across the galaxy. 40 civilizations had fallen before them. 40 worlds had been stripped of resources, their populations enslaved or scattered to the void. Zekthar's clawed hand gestured toward the view screen. His voice came out as a hiss, translated by the ship's systems into dozens of languages that broadcast across all frequencies. Viridians, your world now belongs to the Catharan Empire. Surrender and you may serve us. Resist and you will be annihilated. On the surface of Viridia, sirens wailed in cities that had never known war. The Viridian defense fleet, such as it was, consisted of 12 patrol ships designed for ceremony and rescue operations. Their captains knew they stood no chance, but they launched anyway, desperate to buy time for evacuation ships to flee the planet. The Catharans destroyed them in minutes, their powerful energy weapons tearing through the patrol ships like they were made of paper. The bombardment began without mercy. Brilliant lances of energy stabbed down from orbit, turning cities into craters. The orbital stations exploded one by one, their debris raining down on the planet below. Zekthar watched with cold satisfaction as millions of lives ended in moments. This was the 41st world to fall. It would not be the last. Distress signals flooded across known space, carried by quantum relays that could transmit faster than light itself. Every civilization in range received the desperate pleas for help. Every civilization turned away. Some had tried to resist the Catharans before. Those who fought were destroyed. Those who remained neutral survived. The galaxy had learned a cruel lesson over 3 decades. Stay out of the Catharans' way. Far from the massacre at Viridia, in a region of space most galactic maps marked as unexplored, a different kind of ship floated in the darkness. The EDF Vengeance was humanity's newest warship, fresh from construction yards that orbited Earth's moon. It was a sleek vessel, 500 meters of advanced alloys and experimental technology. Its crew of 400 had spent the past 3 months running trials, testing systems that most of the galaxy didn't even know were possible. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, reviewing reports from the engineering section. He was a tall man in his late 30s, with dark hair starting to gray at the temples and eyes that had seen their share of difficult decisions. He had served in Earth's defense forces for 15 years, working his way up from a junior tactical officer to command of humanity's most advanced warship. The responsibility weighed on him, but he wore it well. Captain, we're receiving something on the emergency frequencies, Lieutenant Commander Laura Bennett said from her station. She was Morrison's second in command, a sharp-minded woman with red hair pulled back in a practical bun. Her fingers moved across her console, filtering through the static. It's a distress signal. Multiple sources, all from the same location. Morrison leaned forward. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled to life. The sounds that came through made everyone freeze. Screams, explosions, desperate pleas in a language the ship's computers struggled to translate. Through the chaos, one message repeated over and over. The Catharans were attacking. An entire civilization was dying. Where is it coming from? Morrison asked. The Viridian system, Bennett replied. It's about 4 light years from our current position. The attack is happening right now, sir. The bridge fell silent. Every officer knew what this meant. For 3 centuries, humanity had remained isolated from the larger galaxy. After a disastrous first contact that nearly led to war with a xenophobic species, Earth's leaders had decided to develop in secret. They had built their ships, advanced their technology, and watched from the shadows as the galaxy moved around them. The policy had kept Earth safe, but it had also kept them apart from the community of civilized species. Morrison's hand tightened on his armrest. On his tactical display, he could see the data streaming in from the distress signals. 41 worlds. The Catharans had destroyed 41 civilizations, and no one had stopped them. Sir, we should contact Earth Command, Bennett said quietly. She knew what he was thinking. She could see it in his eyes. Contact them, Morrison agreed, but prepare the ship for fold space jump. I want us ready to move. Bennett nodded and opened a secure channel to Earth. The conversation took less than 5 minutes. Morrison explained the situation, requested authorization to intervene. The response from Admiral Helen Carter was blunt and direct. Earth's policy was non-intervention. Revealing humanity's existence could put the entire planet at risk. The Vengeance was ordered to maintain its position and continue monitoring. Morrison ended the call and sat in silence for a long moment. His crew watched him waiting. They had all heard the screams. They had all seen the death toll climbing on their displays. Out there, millions of innocent people were dying, and they had the power to do something about it. Chief Hayes, status of the fold space drive? Morrison asked. Chief Engineer Ryan Hayes looked up from his station at the rear of the bridge. He was a stocky man with graying hair and oil stains permanently worked into his uniform. Fully operational, Captain. We can jump whenever you give the word. Commander Bennett, plot a course to the Viridian system. Emergence point at the edge of their solar system. Bennett's fingers flew over her controls. Course plotted and ready, sir. Morrison took a deep breath. What he was about to do could be considered mutiny. He was directly defying orders from Earth Command, but he had not joined the service to stand by while innocents died. None of his crew had. Lieutenant Drake, bring all weapon systems online. Science Officer Cole, I want continuous scans when we emerge. Medical Officer Stevens, prepare sickbay for potential casualties. Around the bridge, officers moved to comply. Lieutenant Kevin Drake's hands danced over the weapons console, activating railguns and plasma torpedo tubes. Megan Cole adjusted her scanning arrays to maximum sensitivity. Somewhere below decks, Nicole Stevens was already organizing her medical teams. Captain, are you sure about this? Bennett asked quietly. It was not a challenge, just a question from one friend to another. Morrison looked at her. 3 centuries ago, humanity almost destroyed itself in nuclear fire. We survived because people chose to stand up for what was right, even when it was difficult, even when it cost them everything. He looked around the bridge at his crew. I cannot sit here and listen to those screams while we do nothing. We have the power to help. That means we have the responsibility to help. Bennett nodded slowly. Around the bridge, other officers were nodding as well. They understood. More than that, they agreed. All stations report ready, Captain, Bennett said. Morrison's hand moved to the control pad on his armrest. One button press would engage the fold space drive. One decision would change everything for the Vengeance, for humanity, for the galaxy itself. Engage, Morrison said. The Vengeance folded space around itself and disappeared in a flash of light. Behind it, the empty void of space returned to silence. Ahead, in a system 4 light-years away, the Catharan fleet continued its bombardment of Viridia, unaware that everything was about to change. In the engine room, Ryan Hayes watched his displays as the fold space drive performed perfectly. The journey that should have taken years at conventional speeds was completed in seconds. Humanity's secret technology was about to be revealed to a galaxy that had no idea Earth even existed. On the bridge, Morrison and his crew braced themselves as the ship emerged from fold space at the edge of the Viridian system. Their sensors immediately began painting a picture of the horror in front of them. The Catharan fleet was in orbit, their weapons still firing at the surface. Debris fields marked where the orbital stations had been. The distress signals were weaker now, fewer voices calling out for help that would never come. Except now, help had arrived. All stations confirm status, Morrison ordered. Weapons ready, Drake reported. Sensors active, Cole said. Analyzing Catharan fleet composition now. Shields at maximum, Bennett added. We're being scanned. They've detected us. On the view screen, one of the Catharan warships began to turn toward them, then another, then all 12. War Commander Zekthar had noticed the newcomer. Morrison leaned back in his chair, his expression calm despite the tension that filled the bridge. Open a channel. All frequencies. Channel open, sir. Morrison spoke clearly, knowing that his words would be the first official message from humanity to the wider galaxy in 300 years. The Vengeance's railguns fired projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. Solid metal slugs accelerated by magnetic fields so powerful they could tear molecules apart. The rounds crossed the distance between the human ship and the Catharan destroyers in seconds. There was no warning, no time to evade. The Catharans had shields, energy barriers that could deflect or absorb most weapons fire. They had relied on those shields for 3 decades of conquest. The railgun rounds passed through the Catharan shields like they weren't even there. The first destroyer's engines exploded in a shower of sparks and venting atmosphere. The ship went dark, tumbling through space without power or control. The second destroyer tried to change course, but 3 more rounds slammed into its propulsion section, tearing through armor plating like paper. It too went silent, drifting helplessly. The third destroyer's captain at least had the presence of mind to fire back, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons at the human ship. The beams struck the Vengeance's shields and scattered harmlessly into space. On the bridge,
Megan Cole studied her sensor readings with growing amazement.
Captain, their energy weapons are barely scratching our shields. Their technology is decades behind ours. Lieutenant Kevin Drake targeted the third destroyer and fired again. More railgun rounds found their mark, and the third Catharan ship went dark. 3 destroyers disabled in less than a minute, none destroyed as Morrison had ordered. The captain wanted to send a message, but not through unnecessary death. War Commander Zekthar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His 3 destroyers were floating hulks. The unknown ship had not even moved from its position. Its shields had absorbed his weapons without effort. For the first time in 30 years of conquest, Zekthar felt something he had not experienced since he was young. Fear. All ships attack formation. He hissed into his communication system. Overwhelm their shields with concentrated fire. The remaining 9 Catharan warships began to move, forming up into a battle formation that had broken dozens of defensive fleets. They moved with practiced precision, each ship taking its assigned position. Their weapons charged to maximum power. If one ship's attack could not penetrate those shields, then perhaps 9 ships firing together could. Captain Morrison watched them come. Commander Bennett, analysis. Laura Bennett's fingers moved across her tactical console, her sharp mind processing the data streaming in from their sensors. They're using a standard encirclement pattern, sir. They'll try to surround us and hit us from multiple angles simultaneously. It's actually quite clever given their tech level. How would you counter it? Bennett allowed herself a small smile. If I were fighting equal technology, I would punch through their weakest point before the formation completes. But we're not fighting equal technology. No, we're not, Morrison agreed. Lieutenant Drake, target their weapon systems. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Show them what our plasma torpedoes can do. Drake's hands moved with practiced efficiency. Plasma torpedoes ready, sir. Target locks acquired. Fire. The Vengeance launched 6 torpedoes, each one a contained ball of superheated plasma held in a magnetic bottle. The Catharans had energy weapons and kinetic weapons, but they had nothing like this. The torpedoes streaked across space, their guidance systems adjusting their courses to intercept the approaching warships. Zekthar saw them coming on his display. Point defense, destroy those missiles. The Catharan ships opened up with their defensive weapons, sending thousands of rounds toward the incoming torpedoes. Some struck home, but the plasma torpedoes were designed to withstand point defense fire. Their magnetic bottles held, protecting the destructive energy within. The torpedoes reached their targets. Each one detonated against a Catharan warship, releasing temperatures hotter than the surface of a star. Shields overloaded instantly. Armor plating melted like ice under a blowtorch. Weapon systems exploded or simply ceased to function. The Catharan crews screamed as their ships were crippled in moments. 6 more ships went dark. Their weapons destroyed, their systems overloaded. That left 3 warships still functional, including Zekthar's flagship. The war commander's clawed hands gripped his command throne so hard they left marks in the metal. This was impossible. 1 ship against his fleet. 1 ship that was destroying them without effort. Target the planet, Zekthar ordered. If we cannot have it, no one will. His remaining ships turned their weapons toward the surface of Viridia. The planet had already suffered terribly, but what remained of its population would be wiped out by a concentrated bombardment. Sir, they're targeting civilian populations, Cole reported from her station. Morrison's expression hardened. Move us between them and the planet. Full speed. The Vengeance accelerated, its engines pushing it forward at speeds the Catharans could not match. In seconds, the human ship positioned itself directly between the Catharan fleet and Viridia. Their shields extended, creating a barrier that would absorb any attack aimed at the planet. "Fire on the planet now and you fire on us," Morrison said across the open channel. "You've seen what happens when you fire on us." Zekthar's face appeared on the view screen again. His earlier confidence was gone, replaced by rage and confusion. "What are you? Where do you come from? No species in known space has this technology." "We come from Earth," Morrison replied calmly, "and we're not part of your known space. We've been watching, War Commander. We've seen what you've done to 40 worlds. We know about the species you've enslaved, the civilizations you've destroyed. It ends now. You cannot stop the Catharan Empire," Zekthar hissed. "I have hundreds of ships, thousands. You have one." "Right now, one is enough," Morrison said. "But you're wrong about the numbers." He nodded to Bennett, who pressed a control on her console. Space rippled at the edge of the system, and another ship emerged from fold space. The EDF Justice was identical to the Vengeance, another cutting-edge warship from humanity's secret fleet. It took up position alongside its sister ship, weapons powered and ready. Zekthar's expression changed from rage to something closer to terror. Two ships that had destroyed his attack fleet without taking damage. How many more did these humans have? "I'm going to give you a choice, War Commander," Morrison continued. "You can surrender now, and you'll be treated as prisoners of war. You'll face justice for your crimes, but you'll be treated fairly. Or you can continue fighting and we'll disable every one of your ships and take you prisoner anyway. The result is the same. The only difference is how much more damage your crews suffer first." On the Catharan flagship, Zekthar's bridge crew waited for orders. They had never seen their commander hesitate before. They had never seen him afraid. But they were afraid too. These humans had torn through their fleet like it was nothing. Their weapons were beyond anything the Catharans had encountered. "What guarantee do we have that you will keep your word?" Zekthar asked. "You have my word as a captain," Morrison replied. "That's all the guarantee you're going to get. But consider this. If we wanted you dead, you'd already be dead." It was true. The Catharan fleet was crippled. 3 ships with damaged weapons against 2 human ships that had proven unstoppable. This was not a battle anymore. It was not even a fair fight. It was a choice between surrender and annihilation. Zekthar closed his eyes for a long moment. His career, his reputation, his honor, all of it ended here. But his crew would live. That had to count for something. "We surrender," he said, the words bitter in his mouth. "Power down all weapons and shields," Morrison ordered. "Prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will be met with force." The Catharan ships went dark one by one, their weapons offline, their shields dropped. Marine teams from both human ships began the process of boarding and securing the vessels. The Catharan crews, trained from birth to be warriors, stood down without a fight. They had seen what these humans could do. There was no honor in pointless death. On the surface of Viridia, the surviving population watched through their sensors as the impossible happened. The Catharans, the scourge that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 decades, had been defeated. By one ship. By a species no one had ever heard of. Morrison opened a channel to the planet. "People of Viridia, this is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Medical teams are standing by if you need assistance. You're safe now." The response came from the Viridian planetary leader, a being whose name the computers translated as First Speaker Lauren. His voice shook with emotion. "Captain Morrison, we cannot express our gratitude. You appeared when all hope was lost. You risked your ship and crew for people you don't even know. Who are you? Where is Earth?" Morrison smiled slightly. "We're a long way from home, First Speaker, and we've been isolated for a long time. But we couldn't stand by while you were attacked. No civilization should have to face extinction alone. Will you come to the surface?" Lauren asked. "Our people will want to thank you properly." "Not yet," Morrison said. "We have work to do first. These Catharans have information we need. Information about their other attacks, their other victims." In the brig of the Vengeance, War Commander Zekthar sat in a cell designed to hold human prisoners. It was almost too small for his reptilian. The quantum relays carried the data across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every civilization with the technology to receive transmissions got the same message. The complete record of Catharan attacks spanning 30 years. Names of destroyed worlds, population counts before and after, detailed logs of atrocities written by the Catharans themselves, recorded with cold efficiency in their military databases. The galaxy learned what it had allowed to happen. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Communications Officer Lisa Morgan struggled to keep up with the incoming messages. Her console lit up like a festival display, each light representing a new transmission from somewhere in known space. "Captain, we're being flooded with responses." Hundreds of them. Thousands. Captain Jake Morrison stood behind her station watching the data stream. Filter them. Priority to official government channels and distress signals. Route everything else to analysis. "Yes, sir." Morgan's hands moved quickly, sorting the chaos into manageable streams. "Sir, we have a priority message from something called the Galactic Council. They're requesting immediate communication. Put them through." The view screen shifted to show a chamber unlike anything Morrison had seen before. It was vast, circular, with 12 stations arranged around a central platform. Each station was occupied by a different species, each one alien in ways that reminded Morrison just how far from Earth he truly was. The being at the central platform spoke first, its form vaguely amphibious with smooth blue skin and large eyes that seemed to hold depths of ancient wisdom. "I am Counselor Vex of the Talmari people," the being said. The translation came through clearly, the ship's computers adapting to the new language in real time. "I speak for the Galactic Council. You have announced yourself as humanity of Earth. You have defeated a Catharan fleet and broadcast evidence of their crimes. The Council wishes to speak with you in person." Morrison nodded slowly. "Where is the Council located?" "At the Nexus Point, a neutral station at the convergence of the major trade routes. It would take most ships 3 weeks to reach us from your current location." "We can be there in 6 hours," Morrison said. The Council chamber fell silent. Even across light years and through computer translation, Morrison could sense the shock in that silence. Ships capable of crossing 3 weeks of travel in 6 hours. What kind of technology did these humans possess? "Then we will await your arrival," Vex said carefully. "Come in peace, Captain Morrison. The galaxy is watching." The transmission ended. Morrison turned to Commander Laura Bennett. "Opinions?" Bennett pulled up star charts on her tactical display. "The Nexus Point is deep in settled space, sir. If this is a trap, we'd be surrounded by potential hostiles." "You think it's a trap?" "I think it's a risk. But it's also an opportunity. If the Council wants to talk, we should listen." "Earth can't hide forever," Morrison agreed. For 300 years, humanity had remained isolated, developing in secret. But the moment they had intervened at Viridia, that isolation had ended. Now they needed to decide what role they would play in galactic affairs. Navigation, plot a course to the Nexus Point. "Science Officer Cole, I want detailed scans of the station when we arrive. If there are weapons or ships lying in wait, I want to know about it." "Understood, Captain," Megan Cole replied. Morrison opened a ship-wide channel. "Attention all crew. We're about to make first official contact with the Galactic Council. This is a historic moment for humanity. I need everyone at their best." Morrison out. He closed the channel and sat back in his command chair. Beside him, Ryan Hayes had come up from engineering to observe. The chief engineer wiped oil from his hands with a rag that would never be clean again. "You know they're going to be afraid of us, right?" Hayes said quietly. "We just crushed a fleet that's been terrorizing them for 30 years. They're not going to see saviors. They're going to see a potential new threat." "I know," Morrison replied. "That's why we need to be very careful about how we present ourselves." The Vengeance folded space and disappeared from the Viridian system. The EDF Justice remained behind, its crew helping with rescue and recovery efforts on the planet's surface. Medical Officer Nicole Stevens led teams through devastated cities, treating injuries and bringing supplies. The Viridians watched in awe as humans worked alongside them, asking nothing in return. 6 hours later, the Vengeance emerged from fold space at the Nexus Point. The station was enormous, a construction of metal and energy that could house hundreds of thousands of beings. Ships from dozens of species floated in orderly patterns around it. A testament to the diversity of galactic civilization, Morrison had seen images in Earth's archives, remnants from their brief first contact centuries ago. But seeing it in person was different. "Sir, we're being hailed by Station Control," Morgan reported. "They're providing docking coordinates. Take us in. Nice and slow. I don't want anyone thinking we're hostile." The Vengeance approached the station at a crawl by its standards, its massive engines barely engaged. Docking clamps extended and locked onto the human ship with precision that spoke of thousands of years of refinement. A docking tube connected, pressurizing to allow safe passage. Morrison stood in the docking bay with a security team of 6 armed Marines and a new face, Amy Richardson, Earth's diplomatic specialist. She had arrived on the Justice before the Vengeance left Viridia, sent from Earth specifically to handle negotiations. Richardson was a woman in her 50s with gray hair, sharp eyes, and a reputation for never losing her composure even in the worst situations. "Remember, we're here to listen and learn," Richardson said as the airlock cycled open. "Let them speak first. Gauge their reactions. Earth needs allies, not enemies." The airlock opened onto a corridor of such beauty it took Morrison's breath away. The walls seemed to be made of crystallized light, shifting through colors that had no name in human languages. Beings of various species moved through the corridors, each one stopping to stare at the humans. Morrison realized they were probably the first humans most of these people had ever seen. An escort was waiting, 4 guards in ceremonial armor, and a dignitary who introduced herself as Protocol Officer Serene. She was tall and slender, with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. "Captain Morrison, Diplomat Richardson, welcome to the Nexus Point. The Council awaits you in the main chamber." They walked through corridors that spoke of age and history. The Nexus Point had stood for over 5,000 years, Richardson had briefed him. It was neutral ground where wars had been ended and alliances forged. And now humanity would stand before the assembled species for the first time in 3 centuries. The council chamber doors opened to reveal the space Morrison had seen on the view screen, but in person it was far more impressive. The 12 council members sat at their stations, each one representing one of the founding species of the galactic community. Galleries rose on all sides, filled with observers from dozens of other species. Every eye turned to watch as the humans entered. Councillor Vex gestured to the central platform. "Captain Morrison, Diplomat Richardson, please. The floor is yours." Morrison and Richardson walked to the platform, their footsteps echoing in the vast space. Morrison could feel the weight of hundreds of gazes on him. This moment would define how humanity was seen by the galaxy. He had to get it right. Amy Richardson spoke first, her voice clear and steady. "Honored councilors, assembled observers, we come before you in peace. I am Amy Richardson, representing Earth and humanity. This is Captain Jake Morrison, who commanded the rescue at Viridia." A murmur ran through the galleries. Rescue. Not attack, not invasion. Rescue. Richardson had chosen her words carefully. "We know you have questions," Richardson continued. "Where is Earth? Why have you never heard of us? Why did we intervene now? These are all fair questions, and we will answer them honestly." Vex raised one webbed hand. "Perhaps you might start with why humanity chose isolation. Our records show a brief contact with your species 3 centuries ago. Then nothing. We assumed you had either destroyed yourselves or chosen never to venture into space again." Morrison stepped forward. "We chose isolation after that first contact went badly. There was a misunderstanding that nearly led to war. Earth's leaders decided that we needed to develop further, to understand ourselves better before we joined the galactic community. So we watched from a distance. We built our ships in secret. We learned your languages and studied your cultures. We hoped that when we were ready we could emerge peacefully. And yet your emergence was not peaceful," another counselor said. "This one was covered in armored plates and had a voice like grinding stone. You emerged through violence, destroying a Catharan fleet." "We disabled the fleet," Morrison corrected. "The Catharans are alive and in custody. They will face justice for their crimes. But yes, we emerged through military action. Because we couldn't watch anymore. We've been monitoring galactic communications for years. We've seen the Catharan attacks. We've watched as 40 civilizations fell and no one stopped them. And you judge us for that?" The armored counselor's voice held anger now. "You who hid in the shadows while others suffered?" Morrison met the being's gaze steadily. "Yes, I judge us, humanity. We should have acted sooner. We should have helped. Every day we waited." Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and watched 53 enemy warships surround the Nexus Point. War Master Gorath's face filled the view screen. His reptilian features twisted in rage. Behind Morrison, his crew moved with quiet efficiency. Each officer at their station, each one ready for what would come next. "War Master Gorath," Morrison said calmly, "you're making a mistake." The Catharan leader's laugh was like tearing metal. I am making no mistake, human. You destroyed one of our fleets. You imprisoned War Commander Zekthar. You think you can defy the Catharan Empire without consequences. We will crush you and everyone who stands with you. Morrison glanced at Commander Laura Bennett. She was already running calculations on her tactical display, her fingers moving quickly across the controls. She looked up and gave him a small nod. The odds were bad, but not impossible. I'll give you the same choice I gave Zekthar, Morrison said. Surrender now and face justice peacefully or be taken by force. The result will be the same either way. Gorath's eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed in fury. You have one ship? I have 53. Surrender or watch this station burn. Actually, a new voice cut in over the communications channel. He has 3 ships. Space rippled at 2 points near the nexus point, and 2 more human vessels emerged from fold space. The EDF Justice had arrived from Viridia, and with it came the EDF Relentless, another cutting-edge warship from Earth's secret fleet. They took up flanking positions around the Vengeance, their weapons powered and shields raised. On the station in the council chamber, the assembled species watched through the viewports as 3 human ships faced down 53 Catharan warships. Amy Richardson stood on the central platform, aware that every eye in the chamber was on her. This moment would define how the galaxy saw humanity. Would they be seen as saviors or just another military power seeking control? What you're about to witness, Richardson said quietly, is what happens when humanity decides to stand up for what's right. Counselor Vex moved to stand beside her at the viewport. His ancient eyes studied the human ships with an expression that might have been worry. 3 ships against 53. Your Captain Morrison is either very brave or very foolish. He's both, Richardson replied. But he's also very good at his job. On the Vengeance, Morrison opened a command channel to the other 2 human ships. Captain Chen of the Justice, Captain Foster of the Relentless, welcome to the party. Good to see you, Jake, Captain Ben Chen replied. His voice was steady despite the odds they faced. We got here as fast as we could. What's the plan? The plan is simple. We disable their ships without destroying them. We show the galaxy that humanity can be powerful without being cruel, and we prove that the Catharan Empire ends today. Simple, Captain Lisa Foster said dryly. I like it. Shall we begin? Morrison turned to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Drake, coordinate with the Justice and Relentless. Target the Catharan flagship first. Railgun rounds only. I want Gorath's ship disabled but intact. Aye, sir. Target locked. The 3 human ships opened fire simultaneously. Railgun rounds streaked across the space between them and the Catharan flagship, moving too fast for the enemy to evade. The rounds punched through the Catharan shields as if they didn't exist, slamming into the flagship's engines and weapon systems. Explosions bloomed along the massive ship's hull. Within seconds, the pride of the Catharan fleet was dead in space, powerless and helpless. All ships attack, Gorath screamed from his damaged bridge. Destroy them! The Catharan fleet surged forward, 52 warships converging on the 3 human vessels. Energy weapons lit up space, thousands of beams lancing out toward the Vengeance, Justice, and Relentless. The human ships' shields absorbed the barrage, their advanced technology shrugging off attacks that would have destroyed any other vessel. Return fire, Morrison ordered. Disable only. No kills unless absolutely necessary. The battle became a dance of precision and power. The 3 human ships moved with impossible grace, their fold space drives allowing them to make micro-jumps that put them exactly where they needed to be. Railgun rounds and plasma torpedoes found their targets with surgical accuracy, each shot carefully aimed to disable rather than destroy. Catharan ships went dark one after another. Their engines shattered, their weapon systems overloaded. Some tried to flee, but the human ships were faster. Some tried to surround them, but the humans simply folded space and appeared somewhere else. The Catharans had trained for 3 decades in the art of war, but they had never faced an enemy like this. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Science Officer Megan Cole called out a warning. Captain, I'm reading a massive energy buildup on one of the Catharan cruisers. It looks like they're overloading their reactor. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Suicide run? Possibly, sir. If that reactor goes critical near the station, it could damage the hull. Thousands would die. Not today. Morrison turned to his navigation officer. Put us between that cruiser and the station. Bennett, divert all power to forward shields. The Vengeance moved with incredible speed, positioning itself directly in the path of the Catharan cruiser. The enemy ship accelerated, its captain choosing death over surrender. But as it approached the human ship, Lieutenant Drake fired one perfectly aimed railgun round. It struck the Catharan vessel's reactor chamber, triggering an emergency shutdown that vented the building energy harmlessly into space. The cruiser went dark. Its suicide run ended before it could begin. The crew would live, though they would face justice for attempting to murder thousands of innocent beings. In the council chamber, the assembled species watched in stunned silence. 3 human ships were systematically dismantling a fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for 30 years, and they were doing it without unnecessary death, without cruelty, with precision that spoke of absolute technological superiority. Counselor Vex turned to Amy Richardson. "Your ships are remarkable. Your technology is beyond anything we've seen. But I must ask, what stops you from becoming the next threat? What stops humanity from using this power to conquer, rather than protect?" Richardson met his gaze steadily. "What stops us is the same thing that brought us here in the first place. We know what it's like to suffer. Earth nearly destroyed itself in wars before we learned to work together. We understand the cost of violence. And we've decided that if we have the power to protect others, we have the responsibility to do so." "Pretty words," another counselor said. "But power corrupts." "Yes, it does," Richardson agreed. "That's why we want to be part of this council. We want oversight. We want to work with you, not above you. We want to be held accountable for our actions." The battle continued outside the viewports. More Catharan ships went dark. Captain Chen of the Justice disabled 3 cruisers with a single spread of plasma torpedoes. Captain Foster of the Relentless used micro-jumps to appear behind a Catharan destroyer and take out its engines before it even knew she was there. On the Vengeance, Chief Engineer Ryan Hayes monitored the ship's systems from his station in engineering. The shields were holding at 97% despite absorbing thousands of hits. The railguns were performing perfectly. The Fold space drive was ready for emergency jumps if needed. Everything was working exactly as designed. "Engineering to bridge," Hayes said over the intercom. "Captain, we could do this all day. These Catharans can't even scratch our paint." "Let's hope we don't have to do it all day, Chief," Morrison replied. "How many ships left, Cole?" 17 still functional, sir. The rest are disabled, 17 out of 53. The Catharan fleet was broken. Their ships floated in space powerless while the 3 human vessels moved among them like sharks among schools of fish. Warmaster Gorath sat on his damaged bridge and watched his life's work crumble. The Catharan Empire had been built on military might. Now that might have been proven worthless. "All Catharan ships, this is Captain Morrison," Jake said across all channels. "You've lost. Your flagship is disabled. Most of your fleet is disabled. You can surrender now with honor, or we can disable the rest of you. Choose." For a long moment there was silence. Then one by one, the remaining Catharan ships powered down their weapons. Their shields dropped. They surrendered. Gorath's face appeared on the view screen one last time. The rage was gone, replaced by something Morrison almost didn't recognize: defeat. "Complete and total defeat, how?" Gorath asked. "How is this possible? We are the greatest military force in the galaxy." "You were," Morrison corrected. "But you built your empire on fear and violence. You thought military might made you strong, but real strength comes from knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. Real strength comes from protecting those who can't protect themselves. What will you do with us? You'll face justice. A fair trial. You'll answer for the worlds you've destroyed, the species you've enslaved. But you'll be treated with the dignity that all beings deserve, even those who've committed terrible crimes." Gorath closed his eyes. "I am War Master of the Catharan Empire. I will not beg for mercy." "I'm not asking you to," Morrison said. "I'm just asking you to accept responsibility for what you've done." The communication ended. Morrison turned to Bennett. "Coordinate with—" 6 months had passed since the battle at the Nexus Point. 6 months since humanity had announced itself to the galaxy and broken the Catharan Empire in a single engagement. The galaxy was still adjusting to the reality of this new power that had emerged from the darkness of unknown space. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and watched a world heal. Below him, the planet Viridia turned peacefully in space. The scars of the Catharan attack were still visible from orbit, but the cities were being rebuilt. The people were returning to their lives. Medical Officer Nicole Stevens had led humanitarian teams to the surface for months, working alongside Viridian doctors to treat the wounded and sick. Captain, incoming transmission from Earth Command, Communications Officer Lisa Morgan announced. It's Admiral Carter, Morrison nodded. Put her through. The view screen shifted to show Admiral Helen Carter, the woman who had originally ordered Morrison not to intervene at Viridia. That order seemed like a lifetime ago now. Carter's expression was difficult to read, but Morrison knew her well enough to see pride beneath the stern exterior. Captain Morrison, I wanted to personally inform you of Earth's decision. The Council has officially approved your promotion to Admiral. You'll be taking command of the new Galactic Defense Initiative. Morrison blinked in surprise. Admiral? Ma'am, I'm not sure I'm the right person for... You're exactly the right person, Carter interrupted. You made the choice to help when it mattered. You showed the galaxy who we are, and now Earth needs you to continue that work. What about the Vengeance? She'll remain your flagship. You'll have a fleet under your command, Jake. 12 ships initially, with more under construction. Your mission is to ensure no civilization ever has to face what Viridia faced. You'll work with the Galactic Council, but you'll answer to Earth. Morrison looked around his bridge at the crew that had followed him into the unknown. Commander Laura Bennett gave him an encouraging nod. Lieutenant Kevin Drake smiled from his weapons station. Chief Engineer Ryan Hayes gave him a thumbs up from the engineering console. I accept, Morrison said, but I want my current crew to remain with me. Already approved, Carter replied. They've earned it. Carter out. The transmission ended. Morrison sat back in his command chair and let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Admiral, commander of a fleet dedicated to protecting the galaxy. It was what he had always wanted, even if he had never imagined it would happen like this. Congratulations, Admiral, Bennett said with a slight smile. You've come a long way from that first jump to Viridia. We've all come a long way, Morrison replied. A chime sounded from Morgan's console. Sir, we have another transmission. This one is from the Nexus Point. It's Counselor Vex. On screen, the Talmari counselor appeared, his blue skin seeming to glow in the light of his chamber. Captain Morrison, I wanted to inform you that the Council has completed its trial of War Master Gorath and the other Catharan leaders. They have been found guilty of war crimes. The sentences are being carried out as we speak. What sentences? Morrison asked. They will spend their lives rebuilding what they destroyed. Each one has been assigned to a world they attacked. They will work under the supervision of the people they harmed. They will see the faces of those they hurt, and perhaps in time they will understand the weight of their actions. Morrison nodded slowly. It was a fitting punishment. Not death, but accountability. Not revenge, but justice. And what of the Catharan Empire itself? It is being dissolved. The conquered territories are being granted independence. Some will join the Council. Others will choose to remain independent. But all will be free to determine their own futures. Vex paused. This would not have been possible without you, Captain. Without humanity. We just did what needed to be done, Morrison said. What anyone should have done, perhaps. But you were the ones who actually did it. Vex's ancient eyes studied Morrison carefully. The Council has made its final decision regarding Earth's request for membership. We would be honored to have humanity join us. A seat awaits you, and Diplomat Richardson has already been assigned as your permanent representative. Morrison felt something loosen in his chest. Recognition. Acceptance. Humanity was no longer alone in the darkness. They were part of something larger now. Thank you, Counselor. Earth accepts. The transmission ended. Around the bridge, the crew exchanged glances and smiles. They had done it. They had not only saved Viridia, but had earned humanity a place among the stars. Sir, we have multiple contacts on long-range sensors, Science Officer Megan Cole announced suddenly. Her tone was careful, not quite alarm, but definitely concern. 6 ships. Unknown configuration. They're broadcasting a distress signal. Morrison's moment of celebration faded. The work was never done. What kind of distress? Pirates, sir. The ships are refugees fleeing from a raider fleet. They're requesting assistance. How far? 2 light years. Current course will have them here in about 3 days at their speed. The pirates are pursuing. Morrison didn't hesitate. Navigation. Plot a fold space jump to intercept. We'll meet them halfway. All hands to stations. Bennett was already moving, her fingers flying across her tactical console. Captain, we could contact the Council. Request assistance from local forces. By the time local forces arrive, those refugees could be dead or captured, Morrison replied. We're here. We have the power to help. That means we have the responsibility. Bennett smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The Vengeance folded space and disappeared from Viridia's orbit. The journey that would take the refugee ships days took the human warship seconds. They emerged between the fleeing vessels and their pursuers, a wall of advanced technology standing between the weak and those who would prey upon them. The pirate fleet consisted of 8 ships, smaller than the Catharan warships, but still dangerous to civilian vessels. Their leader broadcast on an open channel, his voice filled with arrogance. Unknown ships, stand aside. This is none of your concern. These refugees are our property now. Morrison's voice was cold as ice. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. Those refugees are under my protection. Power down your weapons and surrender, or I will disable your ships. The pirate leader laughed. You're 1 ship. We're 8. Do the math, human. I have, Morrison replied. Lieutenant Drake, disable their engines. All of them. The Vengeance's railguns spoke once, and 8 pirate ships went dark in as many seconds. The refugees watched in awe as their hunters became helpless hulks drifting in space. The human ship moved among them like a guardian angel, its presence alone enough to ensure their safety. Morrison opened a channel to the refugee ships. This is Admiral Morrison. You're safe now. Do you need medical assistance or supplies? The response came from the lead refugee vessel, the voice thick with emotion. We need everything. We've been fleeing for weeks. Our supplies are almost gone. Our sick need treatment. We'll take care of you, Morrison promised. Medical teams are preparing to beam over now. We have food, water, and medicine. You're safe. Nicole Stevens led teams to each refugee ship, her medical staff working tirelessly to treat the sick and injured. The refugees were a species Morrison had never encountered before, tall beings with crystalline features that caught the light. They had fled their homeworld when raiders attacked, carrying only what they could load onto ships in hours. Their leader, a being who identified herself as Crystal Singer Mara, came aboard the Vengeance to thank Morrison personally. She stood in his ready room, her crystalline body reflecting the lights and patterns that might have been tears. We thought we would die out here, she said, or worse, be taken as slaves. We sent distress signals but received no response. And then you appeared, like a miracle. Not a miracle, Morrison said gently. Just someone who was in the right place at the right time. Will you take us somewhere safe? We'll escort you to the nexus point. The Council can help you find sanctuary, and Earth will make sure you have what you need to start rebuilding your lives. Mara's crystalline features shifted, and what Morrison learned was their species' smile. Your people are young to the galaxy, but you have wisdom that others have forgotten. You remember that strength is meant to protect, not to harm. 2 days later, the Vengeance led the refugee convoy into the nexus point. Council ships moved out to meet them, ready to provide assistance. Amy Richardson was waiting at the docking bay, her diplomatic skills already in motion to find these people a new home. But Morrison's work was far from over. Reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Former Catharan territories needed help maintaining order. Pirates were becoming bolder in the power vacuum. And there were whispers of other threats, other empires that might see the Catharan defeat as an opportunity to expand. Over the following months, the Vengeance and her sister ships patrolled the trade routes and protected the vulnerable. The EDF Justice, commanded by Captain Ben Chen, stopped a slave trading operation near the Outer Rim. The EDF Relentless, under Captain Lisa Foster, defended a mining colony from raiders. And the Vengeance itself seemed to be everywhere at once. Morrison's reputation growing with each successful mission. Children on dozens of worlds learned stories about the human ships that appeared when danger threatened. Traders spoke of the silver vessels,